Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. I wanted to address again the subject of Russia being in Africa and all of these other nations being in Africa as well. One of my viewers commented on the video that I recently uploaded, and the statement was this, that everybody wants Africa except the people of Africa, or so-called black people. Now, I wanted to address that statement because I think our perception of things gets kind of tangled up when we only look at things from one side. There is a reason why these other nations go after Africa much more so than, say, African Americans or African Latinos or Canadian Africans or whatever. There's a reason why. Because these other nations, they are able to go over into Africa and move about and do whatever they want, and they get the utmost respect from the indigenous home-born African people. Whereas we have to concern ourselves, or those of us that are in the diaspora, when we go to Africa, we don't always, notice I said always, because some of the times you may, we don't always get the same treatment, and we cannot move about as freely as these other nations do. These other nations go in with billions of dollars setting up infrastructure and just doing all kinds of things, whereas many of us, we go simply to visit whatever we can afford to do, and then we have to scurry back to something that's more affordable. These other nations, they're able to go over into Africa from country to country, region to region. They're having meetings with governments and making deals and forming alliances and doing all kinds of things. And we're going over there trying to figure out where will we be accepted. Most other nations don't have that problem. These foreign nations, these Gentiles, they don't have the problem that we have when we try to travel around the world, period. I see various documentaries where you'll see white people or Asians or whatever. They go to Costa Rica, they go to Brazil, they go to various regions of Africa, Australia, just pretty much around the world, wherever they want to go. And it's kind of like that comedian said. He says, wherever white people go, it's like, welcome, table for two. You know, it's just like open arms and welcome. And so when we hear a statement, or when I hear a statement where a person says that everyone wants Africa except black people, I think that's a matter of misguided perception, because that is not true. If we had the open door, open arm policy that everyone else experiences, if we had the love that everyone else receives, if we had the respect that everyone else gets going into Africa, then our perception of moving and living in Africa would be quite different. Now, again, I do realize that not everyone has a bad experience going into Africa. I'm not talking about visiting, by the way. I'm talking about being able to go there and live and just setting up your life there and being able to form alliances and not fear for your life and not wonder if someone's trying to rob you. Because one point was made as well, that a good majority of Africa is still pretty much owned and controlled by white people. There's just a black face that may sit on the seats of leadership. But in terms of the infrastructure and who owns this and who owns that, who owns the multinational corporations, it is not black African people. It is still foreign nations. Now, as far as what that percentage is exactly, that part is unclear, because these foreign nations are still going in, buying up regions of Africa. Setting up corporations in various countries and stuff of that nature, things of that nature. So it's kind of hard to determine what percentage, but I will say this: it is a very high percentage of the continent of Africa that is still controlled and owned by these foreign nations. And you have black leaders who sit at the reins pretending to run something, and they really are not. Okay, they really are not. But I just wanted to talk about that because we need to have a correct, proper perception of how we all view Africa. Many of us do love Africa and would love to be there and prefer to be there, but we don't feel that we should have to be there when we are not being treated the same as people who have been wrong to Africa for so very long. You have these other nations who have mistreated Africans and continue to do so, and they continue to get better treatment than dark indigenous populations around the world. It's a shame when white people can expect better treatment, or Asian people can expect better treatment from various groups in Africa than so-called black people or African Americans, African Latinos, African Canadians, or what have you, African Europeans. It's a sad shame when they can expect to be treated better than we expect to be treated. But that's how it is around the world. Wherever they go on this planet, there's like the red carpet treatment. Okay? And of course, you will have those who will come and pull up some story that's faded into the shadows of some white person who's gone to a region and they were mistreated or something bad happened to them. You'll find these very sparse stories, but overall, you know that's not the treatment. But people don't like to operate in reality these days. They don't like to operate in reality. This is why they like to use statistics and small segments of information that they pull from here and there. To me, that's the same thing that happened with the person who commented about other black people not wanting Africa. That's just simply not true. That is not true. If we could expect a better treatment, of course, who wouldn't? What black person wouldn't prefer to go there if the treatment was going to be better? And if the living conditions was going to be better? I know I would. I would definitely love to be around my people and to feel that love, to feel that respect, mutual respect one for another. But when there's no mutual respect and we're looking down our noses at each other, while at the same time you have black African Americans and black Africans all cheesing and grinning and kowtowing to Gentiles, to white folk and Asians and all of that. But with each other, they're looking side-eye. We all notice it. Everyone notices it. This is why it's being talked about. And many of you don't think it should be talked about. Oh, yes, it should be. We need to get to the bottom of this mental illness that have us looking at each other with such hate and disdain while everyone is trying to gain and gather the love of all of our oppressors. How ignorant is that? Okay, I just wanted to touch on this really quick, family, to just make it known that we do want to feel the love from our people. Mutual love from one to another. We do want to feel that. We would like to be a part of the African landscape. But if the African landscape is not fully inviting, I'm not talking about a group of people that you're touring with. I'm talking about when we move about in the streets. If we decide to move there and live there and set up our lives there, we should be able to expect fully that we're going to have a mutual love and respect for each other. It shouldn't be, okay, I wonder what's going to happen this day. I wonder how this group is going to feel about me. I wonder what my experience is going to be like today. It shouldn't be that way, family. It should not be that way. You see how when a so-called, not African, but a European or a white American goes over to France or goes over to London, they expect and they receive good treatment. Now, of course, I do know that tourists can become targets of scams and robbery. That's everywhere. But for the most part, they don't have to worry about certain things in terms of hating on one another, you see. All right, that is all that I have to say on this subject. I wanted to be very brief with this and wanted to make it known that we need to have better perception when we are commenting on things and realize and understand that there are more sides to the coin than just two or just one, and that you can't just say that black people don't want Africa. You have to explain why. There's a reason why. If there's a desire not to go to Africa, talk about the reasons why. Don't just say that it's that way just because we don't want to be around each other. Explain it so that it can be better understood that there is a reason to it. There is a very clear and obvious reason for it. Okay? With that, family, I will say I love you and shalom.